Hey friends, I want to share something really special with you today from my sponsor Noble Gold, because without their help, I would not be able to make this content for you. Do you remember that moment you became aware of just how much you didn't know? I certainly remember mine, and once your eyes are open, it's impossible to keep them closed any longer. Noble Gold has created something remarkable to remember that moment, so I want to introduce you to the Q coin. A year of painstaking detail went into making this, not just because of the phenomenal design, not just because of the incredible symbolism on the coin, not just because of the sense of belonging it instills, but because it's a big secret hidden in plain sight. If you take a look at the coin, it's loaded with Q quotes, a lightning bolt, 17 references, and so much more. And take a look at the packaging that this coin comes in. It's truly a work of art. Whether you're new to the movement or you've been following for some time, you're going to want to add this to your collection. You can get yours today by going to www.greatawakeningcoin.com. And for this month, you can get a $5 discount if you buy 2 coins. Just use my name, RedPill78, in the discount box, and you'll get these 2 coins delivered to your doorstep. They're simply amazing. The choice will be yours. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. We had a couple of great shows. We had Dylan from Educating Liberals, as well as Juan O'Savin and Cindy Abkug, the mother of the child that was stolen by social services in Colorado. Very, very tragic story. Right here in front of us, you are watching an isolated portion of a video which shows the historic event. President Trump, the first president of America, stepping over into North Korea, the first American president to visit the North Korean country. Here he is poised to shake hands with President Kim Jong-un, who is about to help him across the line of demarcation in the demilitarized zone. Just in case anybody is unaware of how historic this actually is, there has been essentially a state of war in the Korean Peninsula for decades, since the 1950s. It never ended. And President Trump comes along, and despite a bit of theatrics and some name-calling between him and Kim Jong-un, there was a peace that was made. An agreement was made between our two countries to end the war on the Korean Peninsula, bring peace to the Korean Peninsula, and so much more. Prosperity, economic security, and entrance to the global stage for the Korean people, the North Korean people. Here you can see reporters are hopping around excitedly to get photos of them, and President Trump now stepping firmly into North Korean soil. This is a video actually from our friend and researcher Methods. It is set to one of the best songs ever written, In the Face of Evil by Magic Sword. Magic Sword is an incredible electronic music band, and they've made many amazing songs and albums. Highly suggest that you go check out Magic Sword if you haven't caught them in the posts dropped by our favorite Anon. But this right here, this song, I wish I could play it, but I can't because of copyright issues. But I want you to go to Methods page. I want you to go ahead and listen to this song set to this video, because it is just so intense. The energy in the air. Can you imagine having been there to see President Trump step over into North Korean soil for the very first time? The first American president to do so. Thank you so much for bringing this to us, Methods. I do appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for watching. On to the next story. And of course, that first story I have for you today is regarding President Trump's historic visit to the G20, where he actually left with the South Korean President Moon, and he'll be inviting Kim Jong-un to meet him at the DMZ. That was the video that we just watched there. U.S. President Trump attended the G20 dinner along with global leaders Friday night in Osaka, Japan. President Trump sat next to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and 2 seats down from Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Trump sat across from Chinese leader Xi and French President Emmanuel Macron. President Trump and Vladimir Putin are seen clinking glasses in a toast. Take that, deep state hacks. Look at this. President Trump reaches across and offers a toast to Vladimir Putin. It was another successful outing for President Trump. After dinner, President Trump announced he was leaving the summit with the South Korean leader Moon Jae-in, and then he was on to meet President Kim in the DMZ. He says, after some very important meetings, including my meeting with President Xi of China, I will be leaving Japan for South Korea with President Moon. While there. If Chairman Kim of North Korea sees this, I would meet him at the border DMZ just to shake his hand and say hello. How cool. President Trump is a master statesman. And anybody who says that President Trump does not know what he's doing, they are sorely mistaken. These liberals, these talking heads and the fake stream media, they need to get their heads out of you-know-where and start getting with the program. President Trump is here not only for the people of America, but for the citizens of the world. He is making the world a better place, and that's far more than I can say for any other president that's come before him in the many decades since I've been alive. All right, so while President Trump was at the G20, he complained to President Putin about fake news, and Putin laughed and agreed. He said, "We have the same." President Trump met with President Vladimir Putin of Russia this weekend at the G20 summit in Osaka. President Trump joked with Russian President Vladimir Putin about the fake news in America. He said, face news, fake news, fake news. You don't have that problem in Russia. We have it. You don't have it. He says, yes, we have the problem, the same. Of course, this upset the American liberal fake news establishment, who have been publishing the Russia collusion hoax for going on 3 years now. They did not see the humor in the president's comments. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that clip.
Many journalists are upset, to say the least, by a couple of joking exchanges at the G20 in Japan between the leaders of America and Russia.
You don't have the problem in Russia. We have. You don't have the problem. You might have it. You just said that. Let's see.
We tell Russia
It was loud.
Yes, it was loud. You could hear them freaking out. They could not believe that President Trump would have the gall to make a joke with the Russian president. Don't you know he's our enemy? Don't you know the Russian people are the mortal enemies of the American public? Get over it, guys. All right, now, some more big news coming out of Russia, and this is an exclusive to the Gateway Pundit. Russians used in the Steele dossier have been identified, and guess what? Both of them are Western intel assets who don't even live in Russia. MI6 agent Christopher Steele won't tell us who his Russian sources were for his bogus dossier. The entire thing was a sham, but he did attempt to put a face to some of his sources. Regardless, we've identified two of the Russians likely used in the Steele dossier. The first one is named Simon Pkwy. The first real Russian identified and linked to that Steele dossier is Simon Pkwy. We know Pkwy is related to the bogus dossier because Steele mentioned Pkwy in his meeting with State Department official Kathleen Kvelic. Kvelic said that the clown_A's Firestone brought Pkwy in. Remember, Firestone was kicked out of Russia because he was turning Russians into spies. Perhaps Firestone turned Pkwy as well. Far-left rag Mother Jones wrote a piece about Pkwy in September 2016. That right there is a photo from that report, as the fake news media was trying to tie candidate Trump to Putin. They discussed Pkwy in their piece. They said, now there's another Russian connection to add to the list. Open Secrets reported Monday that Simon Grigorovich Pkwy, a Russian-American oil magnate who has headed a number of Russian oil companies, has given more than $150,000 to the Trump campaign and Trump Victory, the campaign's joint fundraising committee, since March of this year. These donations mark the first time he's contributed to federal elections, according to FEC filings. Pkwy, a U.S. citizen who was born in the former USSR and immigrated in his 20s, has worked at or led a number of Russian oil companies. After returning to Russia in 1995 to be a vice president at the Moscow office of Amoco Oil, an American company, he went to work as a vice president at Yukos Oil, one of Russia's largest oil companies. In 1998, he was hired to lead Tyman, a large Russian oil producer, as a president and CEO. In 2003, Pkwy returned to Yukos on the heels of the high-profile ouster of Mikhail Khodorkovsky, the company's president and then the richest man in Russia. Khodorkovsky was sentenced to 10 years in prison on tax evasion charges that are widely believed to have been trumped up by the Putin administration as retaliation for the billionaire's advocacy for democracy and corporate governance reform. Well, we don't know if Khodorkovsky or Pkwy were set up by Firestone or the CIA. It looks likely based on Putin's actions. What we do know, however, is that Simon Pkwy was compromised in another clown operation back in 2003. The C_A accused Pkwy of racketeering and bribing Russian officials in an oil merger. It was between BP, the world's largest oil company, and TNK, a company Pkwy managed as CEO. He was never charged. TNK, however, is out of business. Pkwy fled Russia in fear, and notice, no one in the liberal media ever mentions this. Currently, Pkwy runs a company that produces oil and gas from shale in the U.S. The value of the company skyrocketed 600% in 1 week in July and increased $64 million. Judicial Watch released the email between Kathleen Kvelik to Bruce Orr discussing Pkwy. Kathleen Kvelik emailed to Bruce Orr, subject is thanks and some links. Thanks so much for coming by. It was very helpful to hear about the work the OCDETF is doing, and we look forward to staying in touch. Regarding the person I mentioned, Simon Pkwy, below are a couple of links to the story I mentioned. I met Pkwy around 2014. Tom Firestone with the clown_A brought him in. Pkwy had left Russia because he said he was concerned he might be investigated. As I recall, he had gotten a summons to court on some issue. Per Tom, Pkwy was trying to decide whether to relocate to the U.S. He was supposedly worried about his safety. I think maybe he is also looking at Israel, not sure where he ended up. On this campaign donation story, I just wondered what, assuming is true, the original source of the funding might have been. There's just simply no way Pkwy would give up that lucrative position in Russia unless his life was in danger. Now this leads us to today. Remember how Steele kept saying that his source is paranoid of being outed. Remember, Bruce Orr testified that our guy in this case refers to the source that Chris Steele was worried was going to be outed and might need, and whose life was in danger. This is from page 205. Another hint about Pkwy was reported by ABC News. And right here, apparently Pkwy had an apartment at Trump Tower. Also note that Strzok and Page texted about visits by the heads of the FBI going to where Pkwy was located, and that's Jackson Hole, Wyoming, right here. According to one Russian spy network expert we contacted, a good rule to remember is that any former Russian oligarch who is living in the West will always be an agency's intelligence asset. None of them would be able to get a visa, open a bank account, get a green card, citizenship, or survive a day to enjoy the money they smuggled out of Russia into some secret Swiss bank account without an agency protection and support. Pkwy is no different. Now, Ilya Zlavsky and the Chatham House can be substituted for the name MI6. They say that he hobnobs with British royalty and senior UK politicians. He has been with the Chatham House for several years. The UK government paid for his education, travel, housing, in and advanced degrees. He is Natalia Budeva's old boyfriend. They dated for 2.5 years. He still continues this in a part-time capacity even after she got married to Michael Arno, with the several acts of friendly fire taking place as late of November 2016. Between 2013 and 2019, he generated over 1,300 intelligence reports about Russia for the MI6 and state, and in 2016, he regularly provided MI6 with field reports from the U.S. that were collected by the anti-Trump alliance of Ukrainian and several anti-Putin NGOs and other political organizations, including Chalupa's action groups. He was in the U.S. from June to November 2016 on a tour to heavily prompt the dossier. While here, he had a number of interviews with mainstream media that were dedicated to Trump's collusion with Russia. And here is a ton of information showing intelligence that he had given the MI6 about other people. The fact that Zazlivsky was allowed so close to the Queen of England shows that he's been vetted and therefore is not a Russian spy. You don't get to shake hands with Her Majesty and Prince Philip just because you have a fancy last name. Zazlavsky and Pkwy are likely two individuals whose names were used in the fake Steele dossier. It was a sham, and the fact that the two Russians used in the dossier were not even living in Russia adds more to the claims that this was nothing more than a witch hunt. Once again, clear indications that this is all based on intelligence ties to Western intelligence, MI6, the clowns in America. And very, very good point that no Russians would be allowed to even, do their business once they got here unless they had the protection of the agency. You're not going to be able to bring in all that money. You're not going to be able to get a visa. You're not going to be able to get set up in the way that you need to unless you're passing information on to an intelligence agency in whatever country it is that you're trying to go to. Also, pretty unlikely that he would be pictured here with the Queen and Prince Philip. Unless he was, definitely vetted and was willing to give up information, and they knew that they had something compromising on him so that he wasn't going to go and give their secrets away. So all over again, exactly the same thing. We now know, again, that the Steele dossier was a sham. And finally, several people commented in the stream last night asking if we had heard about the situation in Italy. Well, apparently a human trafficker and the captain of a German nonprofit Sea-Watch ship was arrested in Italy after she nearly caused a collision at an Italian port. And there she is right there. Her name is Carola Rackete. The nonprofit Sea-Watch NGO ship taxis migrants from the African coast and dumps them off in Europe. According to Gafira, there is an extensive network of open borders activists and organizations behind the migrant NGO ships. Many of them are directly funded by or cooperated with George Soros's Open Society. The Open Society groups have maintained direct funding of the migrant NGO ships. Italy started banning these human trafficking ships in 2018 from its ports, and in June of 2018, Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini refused to accept an NGO taxi ship carrying 629 migrants from Libya to Italy. Well, on Saturday, Italian police arrested Captain Carola Rackete after nearly colliding with the police ship and docking in Lampedusa without authorization. According to Spanish ABC International, Rackete also almost caused a collision as she entered the Lampedusa port without authorization. And this is from the report here at Deutsche Welle. German Captain Carola Rackete was arrested as the boat docked with 40 migrants remaining on board, spokesman Ruben Neugenbauer told Agence France Presse. Television footage showed a heavy security presence at the port and police escorting 31-year-old Rackete off the vessel. Italy had refused the German rescue ship port entry since it picked up 53 migrants who were floating on an inflatable raft off the Libyan coast on June 12th. After waiting at sea for an invitation from Italy or an EU state to accept the ship, Rackete decided to head to Lampedusa, where she was blocked by Italian government vessels. Even though in the afternoon the prosecution is open an investigation against me, at the same time they notified us that they will not help to bring the rescued off the ship, Rackete said in a video statement on Twitter. I have decided to enter the harbor, which is free at night, on my own. And here we are. This is a video of her being arrested. Let's take a look.
Raga, un po' di spazio per favore, dai.
Raccogliamo un po' di spazio, ragazzi.
Now, what I'm wondering is, are they clapping and cheering because she's being arrested, or are they clapping and cheering because she is entering the harbor illegally and trying to bring migrants into the country in an illegal manner? So are these people who are excited to see her and excited to see that she is going to be doing this, or are these people excited to see that they are going to arrest her? Let's go ahead and watch the video of her saying that she's going to come into the harbor.
Hello, I'm Carola. I'm the captain of the Sea-Watch 3. I'm here in front of Lampedusa since Friday the 14th with now 43 rescued people on board.
So a slickly produced video trying to make her look like a hero, but the Gateway Pundit is correct. These people are human traffickers. They are bringing illegal migrants from an African country, bringing them across the sea, as you see here, and taking them to Italy. The Italian system is overrun. They don't have enough room for these people. They should not be taking homemade rafts and taking them across the sea. But really what they're trying to do is get picked up by these Sea-Watch vessels and have them brought in illegally to places like Lampedusa. Because once they step onto the island here, then they're going to be in Italian territory. This is not a good thing. These people are not, they're not helping anyone out, because all that's going to happen is that more than likely these people are going to be deported. They're going to end up right back in Libya. What we need to do is be working on the issues at hand there in Libya, where they have open markets where they are selling people. These people are probably legitimately trying to get out of a bad situation there, but the last thing they need to do is to be taken illegally to a country that does not have the room to be able to help them. We've got just a couple of more quick posts here from the boards, and we're going to be at the end of our program, so let's take a look. This was also sent over from my friend and fellow researcher Methods, a post from the board today. Catch the red wave. Failure was never an option. Hang 10 ready. Here we have a picture from the DMZ. This is as President Trump and President Kim were plotting for their meeting there, the historic meeting that we started the show out with. And it says, all this training, prep, travel for a LARP, please. Where we go one, we go all. Exactly. And here, another picture. This is also from the Korean Peninsula. It says, success, stay ready. This is directly a message to us. We've got pictures of the North Korean flags and the U.S. flag. Once again, historic meeting. Could not have been done by any other president than President Trump. He is clearly working to make the world a better place, and I could not be happier about it. All right, folks, I think that's all that I have for you today. I'm still a bit under the weather. My throat is not doing so well. I'm sure you guys can hear it. I hope that everyone has a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we will see you tomorrow for our regularly scheduled broadcast at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.